I had it all. $1 billion empire, a penthouse above the clouds, a model on my arm who turned every head in the room. And the night I stood in the most expensive restaurant in New York, champagne in my hand, the whole city at my feet, I felt nothing. Then I looked up, and she walked in. My ex-wife, the woman I threw out in the rain with nothing but the clothes on her back. She was glowing. She was pregnant. And on her arm was the one man in the world who could destroy me, Adrian Vance. I shattered my wine glass with my bare hand. What I didn't know yet, what would take everything from me in a single night, was that Emma hadn't just moved on. She had been quietly, patiently building a trap. And I had been walking into it for years. The algorithm that built my company? She wrote it. Every dollar I made, built on code she created while I slept. And buried inside it, hidden where no one would ever find it, was a kill switch with my name on it. I thought I was a king. I was just a man who stole from the woman who loved him. The people you discard on your way up, they don't disappear. They simply get stronger, quieter, and more dangerous. The cruelest revenge isn't a fight. It's watching someone build a perfect life without you. If this story hit you somewhere real, drop a comment below. Tell me, did Brian deserve everything he got? Because the ending will change how you think about loyalty, love, and what power actually costs. Like this video, subscribe so you never miss a story like this, and share it with someone who needs to hear it today.
The chandeliers at this place were not just crystal. I like to tell people they were diamond. It fit the narrative I had created. I was the man who made the impossible possible. The boy from the streets who now owned the skyline. Tonight, my table was the best in the house, the one reserved for kings. Across from me sat Chloe, a model, 23 years old. Her beauty was immense. Her thoughts were not. She was lost in her phone. I saw her thumb pause on pictures of herself. "Put that away, Chloe." My voice was soft. The order was not. "We are celebrating. The Concade merger is complete. I am now the controlling power." Chloe looked up. Her blue eyes were wide and vacant. "Oh, that is great, baby. Does this mean we can get that house in Como? The one with the boat?" I swirled the wine in my glass. A familiar hollowness echoed inside me. It was the ache of absolute boredom. "We can buy the whole lake," I said. The words felt empty. It had been 6 months. 6 months since the divorce, since Emma. Her name tasted like ash. My college sweetheart. The woman who fixed my clothes when I was poor. The one who stayed up all night, helping with my first business plans. But as my fortune grew, Emma remained unchanged. A simple woman. She wanted quiet nights. She wore comfortable shoes. She could not charm investors or command a room. I told myself I had outgrown her. I needed a symbol of my success, not a partner. So I cut the cord. It was brutally clean. I remember the day perfectly. I handed her the divorce papers and a check. I told her she no longer fit my world. She did not raise her voice. She did not break a thing. She just looked at me. Her eyes held a deep, terrible sadness. "You will learn the price of this, Brian," she whispered. Then she walked out into the falling rain. "Brian, you are not even listening," Chloe complained. She tapped her fork against her water glass. "I want the lobster, but the waiter is ignoring us." "He is not ignoring you. He is busy," I snapped. My patience was gone, and then the restaurant fell silent. The jazz music, the conversations, the clatter of forks, all of it just stopped. It was not a fade. It was a sudden, sharp gasp. I frowned. This place hosted famous people constantly. A silence like this meant someone with real power had arrived. "Who is that?" Chloe asked. She craned her neck. "Is that some movie star?" I turned just enough to see the entrance. The host, a man named Pierre, who acted like he owned the world, was practically bowing. Two people walked in. Four security guards moved with them, silent and efficient. The man was tall. His suit was custom made and probably cost more than my first car. His hair was salt and pepper. His jaw looked like it was cut from stone. I froze. I knew that man. Everyone in my world knew him. That was Adrian Vance, the CEO of Vance Global. He controlled the shipping lanes I used, the satellites I leased, the banks I borrowed from. Adrian Vance was a predator among predators, a man so powerful that even sharks swam around him. But it was not Adrian who made the blood drain from my face. It was the woman on his arm. She wore a long gown of emerald silk. It clung to her body before falling to the floor. Her hair, which she once kept in a simple bun, now flowed in perfect waves down her back. A sapphire necklace rested on her collarbone, catching the light like a blue star. It was Emma, but not my Emma. The quiet woman was gone. This woman held her head high. Her eyes surveyed the room with a calm, almost terrifying confidence. And then I saw it. The silk was tailored to fit the clear, round shape of her stomach. She was deeply pregnant. My hand clenched my wineglass. The stem shattered. Red wine bled across the white tablecloth. It looked like a fresh wound. "Oh my God, Brian! You made a mess!" Chloe cried. She jumped back to avoid the splash. I did not hear her. A roar filled my ears. Pregnant. She looked 7 months along. I did the math. 6 months since our divorce. 7 months pregnant. The room began to spin. Was the baby mine, or had she replaced me that fast? As the host led them through the restaurant, their path brought them past my table. I was frozen. I could not look away. I expected her to shrink, to look down, to hide. Instead, as they drew closer, Emma's eyes locked with mine. There was no fear in them. There was no love. There was only a cold, smooth emptiness. The way you might look at a chair or a stone. Adrian Vance placed a hand on the small of her back. He leaned down and whispered something in her ear. Emma laughed. A bright, clear sound that I had not heard from her in so many years. They swept past my table. They left the faint scent of jasmine and wealth in their wake. "Wait a second," Chloe whispered. Her eyes narrow. "Is that not your ex-wife, the one who was sort of plain?" I stared at the red stain spreading on the table. "Yes," I said. My voice sounded strange. "That is Emma." A waiter hurried over to clean the spill. He kept apologizing, as if my loss of control was his fault. I waved him away in irritation. My hunger had vanished. "I do not get it," Chloe said, picking at her bread. "You told me she was broke. You said she was nobody. So why is she with him? That is Adrian Vance. My dad says he has enough money to buy this entire city." "I do not know, Chloe," I snapped. The words were too loud. A couple at the next table stared. I lowered my voice. My hands were fists under the table. "I do not know." Across the room, Adrian and Emma were seated. They were at the private table, the one even I could never book. It overlooked the entire city. It offered complete privacy. I watched them. My focus was absolute. I watched Adrian pull out her chair. I watched the servers swarm them, treating Emma like a queen. But the thing that truly tortured me was the way Adrian looked at her. It was not how a man looks at a beautiful prize. It was a look of pure, unconditional worship. His hand came to rest on her stomach after he sat down. The gesture was possessive, protective, fatherly. Is it his child? My thoughts were a storm. That is impossible. We were still married 7 months ago. It must be mine. But she never told me. A wave of pure ownership washed over me. If that was my heir, I had a right to know. I was Brian Thorne. People did not keep secrets from me. I am going to the men's room. I stood up. I had to. Chloe could wait for her dessert. I walked across the dining room, not to the restroom, but toward them. My heart hammered against my ribs. It was rage, pure and simple, and a desperate feeling I refused to name. As I approached, two large men in suits materialized from the shadows. They blocked my path. I told them to move aside. I used my command voice, the one that built my company. One of them spoke, his tone flat. Mr. Vance was not seeing visitors. Then a voice from the table, deep and sure, told them to let me pass. The men parted. I stepped forward. Emma did not even look up from her menu. She was glowing. The pregnancy made her radiant, her skin flushed with life. She looked more beautiful than she ever did when she was mine. I said her name, my voice tight. Emma. She slowly lowered the menu. Her eyes met mine, cool and so very far away. Hello, Brian. I knew you would come over eventually. The words were a dismissal. You are pregnant, I stated, the words tasting like ash. As observant as ever, she replied, her voice dry. I looked at him, at Adrian, who watched me with a predator's smile, sipping his drink. I looked back at her stomach. Is it mine? A short, sharp laugh escaped her lips. Yours? She told me I gave up that right. The night I made her leave our home at 11 o'clock at night, because she had no vision. But if that is my child, I have rights, I insisted, stepping closer. I have lawyers who can. A voice cut through my anger. Sit down, boy. It was Adrian Vance. He did not shout. He did not move. But the command in his tone froze me solid. Mr. Thorne, he continued, swirling ice in his glass. You seem to be confused about a few things. Let me help you. First, you will not raise your voice to my fiancé. It is bad for the baby. Fiancé. The word hit me like a fist. Second, he said, his eyes turning to ice. He spoke of the baby's father. He said, I was too busy with my model to notice my wife, that I had not touched her in the final year of our marriage. We both know the truth, Brian. So do not act like the devoted husband. My face burned with shame and fury. I looked at Emma, searching for a crack in her perfect composure. Emma, you have to tell him. Tell him what I was to you. I already did, Brian, she answered softly, her hand on her belly. I explained that you were a man who needed to make me feel small so you could feel big. I told him how you called me worthless. She reached for Adrian's hand, and then Adrian showed me I was priceless. It is about the money, I snapped, my pride in pieces. That is all it ever is. You traded a millionaire for a billionaire. You are just a gold digger, Emma. The air grew cold. Adrian set his glass down. The small sound was like a gunshot in the silence. Be very careful, he said, his voice low. You are speaking to the chairwoman of the Vance Foundation. She is not like you, Brian. She did not inherit her wealth. She built a new life from the ruin you made of hers. Just then, Chloe came over, her heels clicking on the floor. She saw the tension, but was too simple to grasp it. Honey, what is going on? She whined, clinging to my arm. Her gaze fell on Emma, and she smirked. Oh, it is you. You really let yourself go. Divorce must have been hard. A heavy silence settled on us. But Emma did not seem angry. She just smiled, a slow look of pity on her face. And you must be Chloe. Brian always liked shiny things with no substance. Chloe gasped, offended. You are welcome to him, Emma said, already turning back to her menu. He is something I threw away. But here is some free advice, honey. Read the prenuptial agreement he gives you. Brian guards his money very closely. Adrian laughed, a dark, cold sound. Marcus, get them away from me. They are ruining my appetite. The guard stepped forward, his huge body blocking my view. This is not over, Emma, I snarled, as they forced me away. You will not keep my child from me. I will see you in court. I will destroy you. Adrian Vance stood up. He was taller than me, a looming shadow. He leaned close, his voice a low threat in my ear. If you sue her, if you bother her, if you even look at her again, I will do more than sue you. I will buy your company, Brian. I will sell it for parts. You will have nothing left but that cheap suit. Do not test me. I had to back away. I had no choice. I returned to my table as Chloe complained in my ear. I did not hear her. I just stared at the empty chair where my future was meant to be. I watched Emma laugh with a billionaire, carrying a child who could inherit everything. In that single moment, for the first time in my life, I felt completely powerless. But the night had one more surprise. As I tried to get the bill, a man in a gray suit approached Adrian's table. He was serving legal papers. I felt a surge of hope. But the man walked past Adrian. He came directly to my table. "Are you Brian Thorne?" he asked. "Yes. You have been served," he said. He placed a thick envelope on the table. I tore it open, my hands shaking. The lawsuit was not from Adrian. It was from Emma. The plaintiff was Emma Vance Cross. The subject was theft. The theft of intellectual property for the Thorne algorithmic model. The blood left my face. The algorithm. The code that built my billion-dollar empire. The code I always claimed as my own. But it was hers. Written in our college dorm room 10 years ago. She was not just here for revenge. She was here to take everything. The morning light in my office felt cold. The air conditioning was on high, matching the chill around the large table. I sat with my head in my hands. Across from me was Marcus Sterling, my best lawyer. He charged $500 an hour to look calm, but today he looked terrified. "Tell me this is a joke, Sterling," I said, pushing the papers toward him. She was a literature major. I remember she used to check my emails for mistakes. She could not write that code. Sterling removed his glasses, his forehead slick with sweat. "Brian, our tech team analyzed the source code, the one your entire company runs on. They found something buried in the kernel. Hidden metadata. And," I demanded, "my patience gone." Sterling put an image on the screen. It was a long string of complex code, but inside there were notes. Notes from the programmer. "For Brian, so you can finally get some sleep tonight. Love E." I just stared. The memory hit me like a physical blow. It was 7 years ago. I was failing my final project. The program would not stop crashing. I had passed out on our cheap sofa, completely exhausted. When I woke up, the code worked. It was perfect. Emma was sitting there with coffee and a tired smile. She said she had just messed with it a little. I thought she fixed a typo. I never knew. She had rebuilt the entire thing from the foundation up. "It is worse," Sterling said, his voice quiet. "The papers show she registered the copyright for this code under the name Ghostwriter 3 days before your company even launched. She is the legal owner of everything, Brian, and she wants a court order to shut down your servers immediately." "Shut us down," I yelled, standing so fast my chair crashed to the floor. "If we are offline for an hour, our stock will drop 10%. If we are shut down for good, Thorntech will be bankrupt in a week." "Then you have to make a deal," Sterling said, his face grim. "Give her whatever she wants, money, shares, a public apology. Because if you fight, she has proof, and she has Adrian Vance's lawyers. They will ruin us." I walked to the window. I looked out at the city I thought I owned. My phone buzzed. A text from Chloe. "Babe, my credit card was declined at Gucci. You need to fix this. Everyone is staring." I threw the phone against the wall. It shattered. I could not let my company die. I was Brian Thorne. I was a visionary. I was not some fraud who built his life on his wife's stolen talent. I had to know where she was. Sterling had to tell me. She was hosting a gala at the museum tonight. He said it was a charity for single mothers. A single ticket cost $20,000. I told him to purchase one for me. He brought up the restraining order. My voice grew loud. I would not make a scene. I only wanted to remind her of what we had. Emma is a kind soul. She feels things deeply. If I could get her alone, away from Vance, I could end all of this. I could make her drop the lawsuit. Sterling looked doubtful, but reached for his phone. He said he would try, but then he told me she was not compassionate anymore. At the Metropolitan Museum. The entire place was a storm of silver and white. The city's most important people drifted through the halls. Politicians, the children of billionaires, tech founders. They all held glasses of champagne. I arrived by myself. I told Chloe to stay at home. I had to appear heartbroken and sorry. My suit was my most formal, but I felt like an actor in my own life. It felt like every whispered conversation was about me. Thorntech stock had taken a massive fall today. I heard Vance Global was funding one of our biggest competitors. I searched the crowded space for a dress the color of emeralds, but I saw no green that evening. I only saw silver. Emma stood on a platform by the Temple of Dendur. She spoke to the crowd with a microphone. She wore a silver gown for her pregnancy. It moved around her like liquid light. She was magnificent. She was an impossible distance away, a queen talking to her followers. And that is why the Vance Foundation is giving $50 million to give legal help to women who were wronged in their divorces. Her voice was strong and sure. The room erupted in applause. A feeling of sickness washed over me. That charity was a weapon aimed directly at me. When she came down from the stage, she was surrounded. I saw my opportunity. I moved through the groups of people. I ignored the cold looks from people I had crossed before. I called her name, just as her security tried to lead her out. She stopped. The people near us moved back. They formed a circle. They knew a drama was about to unfold. It was the public fight they had all been hoping for. Emma turned around, very slowly. Adrian was not by her side for once. He was across the grand room, speaking with a senator. This was the moment I needed. "Brian," she said. Her face was a perfect, unreadable mask. "You really came and bought a ticket. How very thoughtful of you. I will just think of the $20,000 as the first payment on what you owe me." The word alimony made a few people laugh. I stepped toward her. My voice fell to a desperate, low sound. "Emma, please. I must speak with you in private." "I have nothing to say to you outside of a courtroom," she replied. Her voice had no warmth. "This is about our company," I begged. "You are destroying it. Do you know how many people will lose their jobs? I know that you are angry, but do not make my employees suffer for it. That is not who you are. You are a good person. You are the type of woman who saves stray animals." Her eyes burned with a sudden fire. The woman who saved stray animals died. She died the night she had to sleep in her car, because her husband canceled all of her credit cards. A single gasp echoed through the crowd. The blood left my face. That was a secret I had prayed would never surface. "I did not know you had nowhere to go," I said. "I assumed you were with your parents." "My parents died, Brian. You knew that very well. You just did not care." She moved close to me. Her voice dropped to a threatening whisper. "As for the company you call yours, it is not. My code is the bedrock of it all. My intelligence and my sleepless nights built it. You were only the handsome salesman, Brian, and now I am taking your mask away." "Emma, wait," I pleaded. I reached out and took her hand. "What about our baby? If you destroy me, you destroy his future. That child is mine, correct? You know in your soul that he needs his father." She looked down at my hand on her arm. Then her eyes returned to mine. She did not resist my touch. A smile appeared on her lips, but it was cold, It was hollow. Do you really want to discuss the baby, Brian? Yes, I gasped. I thought I had found a way to reach her. It is my right to know. Fine, she announced. Her voice was loud enough for all the nearby guests to hear. The night you made me leave, I was carrying a small gift. Do you remember that? My brow creased as I tried to recall. I did remember it. She had been holding a little white box. I had hid it out of her hand. I was desperate to get her out of the house before Chloe got there. I remember, I whispered. That box, Emma said, her voice shaking with a fury she could barely hold back. It held a positive pregnancy test. It also held a tiny pair of shoes for a baby. I was trying to tell you the news. I wanted to tell you we were finally starting our family, but you just looked at me. You told me to take my garbage and get out. The world felt like it was tilting. All the color drained from my sight. So do not stand there pretending you care about being a father, Emma seethed. You abandoned your own child before you knew he was real. But he has a father now. A real man who held me when I cried, who went to every doctor visit, and who built the nursery with his own 2 hands. That is different, I protested, but my voice had no conviction. Biology is what matters. Biology only makes you the source, Brian. It is love that makes a man a father. Suddenly, a strong hand came down on my shoulder. It was Adrian Vance. He had crossed the room with an unnerving speed. Is everything all right here? Adrian asked. His tone was low, but it carried a frightening power. We are just having a conversation, I said. I tried to shrug off his hand. It did not move. Adrian's grip was made of iron. It looked to me like you were bothering my wife, Adrian said. She is not your wife yet, I snapped back. My jealousy was a burning fire. Adrian simply smiled. He reached inside his jacket. He took out a folded paper and placed it in my coat pocket. You should review this when you are outside. It is a copy of the adoption agreement. I legally adopted this baby 2 weeks ago, while he was still in the womb, with Emma's full permission. The court approved it, citing proven abandonment by the biological source. I could only look at him, completely shocked. You are not allowed to do that. I am Adrian Vance. Brian Vance, he said. There is nothing I am not allowed to do. Now leave my sight, before I have my security escort you down the front stairs. Overcome by humiliation and totally broken, I fled. I could feel the eyes of New York's most powerful people on my back. I fell out into the cool night air near Central Park. I took the paper Adrian had given me from my pocket. It was more than just an adoption paper. A DNA analysis was attached to the back. Subject, Brian Thorne. Finding 0% chance of paternity. I stood completely still. I read the words, over, 0%. My eyes moved quickly across the page. That is when I saw the doctor's note at the bottom. The subject suffers from a congenital condition. It makes him incapable of fathering a child. This has likely been his condition since he was a teenager. The paper fell from my fingers. It landed on the wet pavement. I was not the father. I could never have been the father. It was not possible for me to be a father. But if I could not have children, and Emma was pregnant, then who was the real father? All at once, the truth struck me. The dates, the business trip Emma took, by herself, 1 year ago, to the West Coast, the location of Vance Global's headquarters. She had not just met Adrian 6 months ago. She had a past with him. The rain in New York does not clean anything. It just makes the filth on the ground more slippery. I found myself on the street, in front of a private fertility clinic on the Upper East Side. The large oak door slammed shut behind me with a noise that felt deep inside my bones. I had stormed into the clinic. I demanded an explanation. I threatened them with a lawsuit for medical malpractice. I yelled that Adrian's DNA report was a forgery. The doctor, an older man with no patience for the drama of rich men, was not moved. He had only pulled my medical file from 20 years before. It was a chart from when I was a teen. I was in the hospital with serious problems from my illness. "I told your parents at the time, Mr. Thorne," the doctor said. He pushed his glasses higher on his nose. The internal scarring was total. "You have always been unable to have children. We assumed that you already knew." I walked without purpose in the heavy rain. My expensive Italian shoes stepped in deep puddles of water. I had not known. Or maybe, on some level, I had chosen to ignore the truth. For 5 long years, I had let Emma take all the blame. Every month that she did not get pregnant, I would let out a long sigh. I would give her a look of disappointment. I would make a comment about her biological clock. I made her believe that she was the one with the defect. I forced her to visit specialists. I made her take hormones that made her sick. And I made her feel ashamed when no baby came. The entire time, I was the one who was broken. My hands shook as I called for a taxi. I needed to go home. I needed to tell Chloe. Chloe. The thought was a sudden shock. Chloe was with me for a single reason. I had promised her everything. I had promised her an empire for her child to inherit. It was the only way to cut out the infection before it spread. The rain outside was nothing compared to the storm inside my apartment. Shopping bags, like monuments to my failure, littered the floor. Chanel, Hermes, Prada, and there she was, the source of the rot, screaming into a phone. Her voice grated on my soul. She complained about a credit card, a piece of plastic I funded. When she saw me, drenched and broken, her eyes held no concern. Only demand. In that moment, I saw the truth. Her beauty was just a mask for an endless, ugly hunger. She had no love for me, only for what I could provide. "Chloe," I said, my voice steady, "it is time for you to go." Her laugh was like shattering glass. "A trip to Paris?" She thought this was a game. "No," I replied, kicking a box out of my path. "You are leaving my life. Now." Her face twisted into a mask of rage. "You cannot just throw me out. Not like your ex-wife. My ex-wife." The words tasted like ash, was worth 10 of you. She built this with me. You only ever took. Get out, Chloe. I will not pay for you any more. "Fine," she shrieked, knocking jewels to the floor. "You were never any fun. Everyone laughs at you, you know. You pretend to be a king, but you are just money in a suit. I heard about your legal problems. You are going to be poor." She left, and the slam of the door was the sound of my life breaking. I was alone. I poured a drink, the city lights mocking me. I had ruined my marriage for her, for nothing. Then the grief twisted. It became cold. It became sharp. Rage began to build. Emma. She must have known. If she was pregnant, and the baby was not mine, it meant only one thing: deception. The dates circled in my mind. Divorced for 6 months, 7 months pregnant. She was with him while she was still my wife. A dark laugh escaped my throat. Saint Emma. Perfect, flawless Emma. A liar. I found the number in my phone. A man I kept for dirty work. A reporter who owed me everything. "Barry," I said, my voice like ice, "I have a story for you. About Adrian Vance and Emma Cross. I will explain how a billionaire stole another man's wife, how the perfect Emma was pregnant by another man, in my own bed." "That is a bomb, Brian," he whispered, his voice full of greed. "But do you have the timeline proof?" "The baby is all the proof I need," I lied. "Publish it. Ruin her. If she wants my company, I will make sure she is too ashamed to show her face in public." I ended the call. A dark satisfaction settled over me. If I was going down, I would take them with me. The headline was perfect: "Billionaire Baby Scandal." Did Adrian Vance steal pregnant lover from devastated husband? The story painted me as the victim, a loving husband betrayed by a faithless wife, a woman who chased a richer man. It suggested the baby was conceived in my own home. I watched the chaos from my office. The public was on my side. They called Emma a gold digger. They questioned Adrian. They will settle now, I told my lawyer, whose face was a mask of fear. They will drop the suit to make this stop. Brian, he said, his eyes glued to a screen, you need to see this. Vance Global is holding a press conference. It is live. I turned to the large monitor bar on my wall. Adrian Vance stood at a podium. He was not nervous. He was not angry. He looked like a judge, about to deliver a verdict, and Emma stood beside him. She was not hiding. She looked right at the camera, her expression like steel. Today, Adrian began, his voice calm and deep. A desperate man tried to use the media to hurt a pregnant woman. That man is Brian Thorne. He accused me of being a thief. He claimed I broke up his happy home. Adrian paused, his eyes burning through the screen. We knew he would do this. Liars always assume everyone else is a liar too. He stepped aside. Emma took his place. I never cheated on Brian Thorne, she said, her voice unshakable. For 7 years, I was a loyal wife. I helped him when he had nothing. I wrote the code that made him rich while he slept. She held up a document. This is from a clinic. It is dated 8 months ago, 1 month before my divorce. It is proof of my in vitro fertilization treatment. Using a donor, the word IVF hit me like a physical blow. I did that, Emma continued, her voice shaking slightly, because my husband wanted a child. But he would not see a doctor. I wanted to surprise him. I wanted to give him the family he always said he wanted. I paid for it myself, with my own money. I went through it all alone. Silence fell over the press conference. Silence filled my office. I learned the treatment worked on the same day Brian gave me divorce papers, she said, a single tear tracing a path down her face. I tried to tell him. He would not listen. He threw me out. I was pregnant and homeless, alone. That is when Adrian Vance found me. He did not take me from you, Brian. You threw me away. He just saw the value in what you discarded. Adrian returned to the podium. As for the company, Mr. Thorne forgot one thing about the software he stole. My stomach turned to ice. Emma did not just write the code, Adrian said, a cruel smile on his face. She also built in a defense, a kill switch, hidden in the system. It was designed to trigger if an unauthorized user, you Brian, tried to change the source files, which your team did this morning to hide your crime. Adrian checked his watch. The failsafe activates in 3, 2, 1. In my office, the lights flickered. The hum of the servers died. My monitor went black. Sir, my assistant screamed, running into the room. The platform is down. The app is gone. All of it is gone. The code is deleting itself from every server. I slammed my fists on the dead keyboard. There was nothing, just a black screen. In the corner, green text blinked. Error. User unauthorized. Goodbye, Brian. On the television, Adrian Vance spoke one last time. Thorntech is now an empty shell. Its stock is worthless. I have also contacted the Securities and Exchange Commission with evidence of Brian Thorne's embezzlement. For his mistress, Adrian's eyes were chips of ice. Checkmate. Brian. The broadcast ended. I sat in the dead silence. My phone began to ring. The board, the commission, the bank. I did not answer. I walked to the window and looked down at the city. I had always wanted to be a king. I had always wanted to be powerful. I had my wish. I was now a cautionary tale. I saw an SUV at the curb far below. A woman in a green coat got in, helped by a tall man. Even from this distance, I saw This distance, I saw his gentle touch. Emma, she had won. She did not just defeat me, she erased me. I sank to the floor. The silence of the office was a crushing weight. From my wallet, I pulled out a crumpled photograph I had carried for years. It was me and Emma in our college apartment, eating pizza on the floor, laughing. We were poor, but I was happy. I understood then, buried under the rubble of my life. That was the wealthiest I had ever been, and I threw it all away for shiny things that were never really mine. In the world of money and power, 3 years is an eternity. New kings are crowned, old empires turn to dust. Names once spoken with awe are forgotten. But for me, 3 years felt like 300. The end was not fast, it was not clean, it was a slow, public dissection of my life. The investigation took 18 months, a daily ritual of shame that took all my pride. They took the penthouse, then the cars, then the art. I remember the day they came for my watches. I just stood there and watched. The cabin was a sanctuary of warmth against the biting Chicago wind. I watched my wife, my son, and felt a rightness that settled deep in my bones. This was real, not the hollow promise of fame, but the solid weight of family. Some men build empires of air and code. I built a fortress of love and steel. She was safe. He was safe. That was the only thing that ever mattered. The man who came before me never understood that simple truth. He built a brand. I built a life, a real one. These events were always the same. A collection of peacocks in expensive suits, all selling futures they would never deliver. To them, I was just another player. They did not see the predator who walked among them. They did not understand that for every winner, there must be a loser. Outside, the weak huddled in the cold. It was the natural order of things. Some men are built for the storm, others are simply washed away by it. I had my family, I had my purpose. The rest was just noise. I remembered Emma when she was with him, a sad orchid in a cheap plastic pot. He saw her as a beautiful accessory to his own hollow story. He never saw the fire in her, the strength he was suffocating. I did not steal her. I liberated her. That night, she wanted a designer dress. He told her it was too much. He wanted her small. I wanted her to own the world. Tonight, she would not be an afterthought in the front row. She would be the queen she was born to be. At my side. The car came to a smooth stop. Outside, the lesser world scurried about its business. The valets. The staff. They were components in a machine, invisible cogs that made the evening run. It was a hell of their own making, a world where they parked the cars of gods they would never become. I straightened my tie. The name Vance was not a brand. It was a promise of strength, of victory. It was carved from the failures of weaker men. We were here. The whale had arrived. A ghost in a cheap uniform approached the door. His hands trembled. His face was a roadmap of failure. I felt nothing for him, not pity, not contempt. He was simply a fact of the world, like the falling snow, a man broken by his own weakness. I saw my own reflection for a moment in the dark glass. It showed a man who took what he wanted, who protected what was his. The door opened. I smelled the cold air of the street, a scent of desperation and defeat. I stepped out into the night. The ground beneath my feet felt solid, owned. I turned and offered my hand to Emma. Careful, love. It is icy. She took it, her touch a familiar comfort. The woman who emerged was not the one I had saved. She was the one I had built. Radiant, confident. She was my greatest acquisition, my most profound success. Her existence was a testament to my judgment. He had tried to hide her light. I had put her in the sky for the whole world to see. Then came the true measure of my victory. Wait for me. A small voice, full of life. My son, Leo. He was the future, a legacy of my blood, not of empty words on a stage. This was dynasty, not the fragile concept the other man preached about, but a living, breathing child. A boy who had learned strength from my example, not theories from a book. He was everything his mother's first husband could never be. And he was mine, utterly and completely. I lifted him into my arms. The weight was solid, real. His small arms wrapped around my neck. The trust was absolute. "Did you see the robot daddy?" he asked. His world was full of wonder. My world was built to protect his. This was the purpose of power, to shield the ones you love from the harsh realities, to ensure their world is full of robots and cookies, not failure and cold. Emma was right. He was my son, a love for the future and a taste for the sweet things in life. My thoughts drifted to the man who came before, the man who spoke of legacy but could not create it, a genetic dead end, a biological failure. He talked of a dynasty with a name that would die with him. It was not cruel, it was simply biology. Nature had made its choice long before I did. I was merely the instrument of an inevitable outcome. The world corrects its own mistakes. A strong line continues. A weak one ends. He was a lie. My son was the truth. The boy noticed the valet. He waved a small, gloved hand, a child's simple kindness. I followed his gaze. I saw the valet, frozen by the door. I saw Emma's face change. A shadow of pity passed over her features. And in that moment, I knew the ghost had a name. Brian Thorne. He stood there, a relic from a forgotten war. A war he had lost so completely, he did not even realize it was over. He was not a rival. He was an artifact. Her pity was a small, sharp annoyance, a wasted emotion on a man who deserved nothing. He had earned his place in the cold. He had earned his invisibility. I would not allow his ghost to cast a shadow on our night. I touched Emma's arm gently. A reminder. "It is freezing out here, Adrian," she said. Her voice was quiet, but I heard the unspoken plea. "Let us go. Let us leave the past behind. Let us get Leo inside," I agreed. My voice was a calm, final command. I turned to the man, to Brian. He was no one. A forgotten detail, just another servant waiting for a tip. I would not give him the satisfaction of recognition. I would give him what he was, a service worker. I reached into my pocket. The crisp bill was a tool, not of charity, but of dismissal. I pressed it into his hand. "Stay warm." A final, meaningless courtesy. I turned my back on him. I led my family into the light, leaving the past where it belonged, in the cold, in the dark, forgotten. This was the correct way to end it. I stood tall and held the door for them. My world must have order. Their son waved from his new father's shoulder. I tried to lift a hand back. It was a weak gesture. I saw Emma rest her head on his shoulder. They moved as a single, perfect thing, a complete family. I was the man who opened the door. The glass swung shut, sealing them away. The street became quiet again. Only the wind made a sound. I stared at the $100 bill in my hand. This paper once meant nothing to me. I would have used it to light a cigar. A tip this large was a joke for pouring water. I would have laughed at how little it was. Now this single piece of paper is everything. It is the choice between a meal and hunger. It is the difference between warmth and freezing. My hand clenched the bill until my knuckles were white. A sob built deep in my chest. It was a sharp pain I could not contain. I slid down the cold stone of the hotel wall. I landed on the wet sidewalk. I built my life on a fortress of money. I believed it was strength. People were just numbers, assets and losses. And I pushed away the only woman who loved the man I was. I did it all. I wanted an image that looked good on a magazine. I wanted to be a king. Now I see the truth. Kings are just men wearing costumes. Real power is not a crown. It is the hand you hold when the snow falls. Emma found a hand to hold. I have nothing but my own, deep in my pockets. A voice called from the valet booth. A man who saw nothing of my ruin. Quit hiding your tips, he yelled. A Corolla is coming. Get to work. I wiped my face with my rough sleeve. I took a long, shaky breath. The cold air burned my lungs. It pulled me back to now. Coming, I managed to say. I pushed myself up. I adjusted my cheap, oversized jacket. I took the $100, a handout from my wife's new husband. I put it in my pocket next to my bus pass. I walked to the dented car, pulling to the curb. I opened its door. I forced a smile onto my face and lowered my head. Welcome to the Grand Plaza, I whispered. How may I assist you? This is the quiet collapse I designed for myself. There was no loud explosion, no final fight, just the slow, freezing knowledge that I built my own prison. I wasted my life on things with a high price. I never understood true worth. I threw away a diamond because I was chasing glitter. Now I see that diamond is in another man's crown. It is a hard lesson. Sometimes punishment is not what is done to you. It is what you are forced to live without. I did not get the family or the love. I just got a tip. I see her face in my mind, the pity in her eyes. I think that was more painful than her screaming at me. Being ignored is its own kind of revenge. She made the right choice to say nothing. She was right to simply walk away from the ruin. That was the cleanest way to leave me behind. Thank you for watching my fall. I will remember the faces of people on their way up. They never look down at the ones they pass. But every ladder can break. I will be here when they make their own way back down. This cold is a final, honest teacher. It is a lesson crafted just for me. It is a valuable truth I must now carry alone. This content was carefully researched, developed, and manually edited by our team to deliver meaningful stories with valuable life lessons. Every narrative is crafted to entertain, inspire, and empower our audience. We believe that great stories can change lives, and we are committed to bringing you content that matters. Thank you for being part of our community.